Welcome back and happy Halloweeny! Woo! Hope you guys have a great Halloween and, be safe. Check the calendar. People be trying it. And, yeah. Last school ready with me. Sad. But, what a way to end it, right? On Halloween? Perfection! If I do say so myself, and I do. I just did. You just heard it. Yeah. I have danglies. Okay. Yeah. Final goal ready with me. Happy Halloween. And we are kind of giving a little callback to a previous goal ready with me that I did about, I think it was like 2 years ago. So it's always kind of fun to bring back characters from a previous story and make them horrible all over again. Right? Fun. All right. Let's get spooky. Ooh. Angela had separated from her husband after 5 years of marriage. Just wasn't quite working out anymore, and it was time to, just put the relationship out of its misery. Unfortunately, they had a 4-year-old daughter. So, not a happy divorce. Kind of got a little messy. And, these things happen. So, she ended up getting full custody of the daughter. And he got visitation, but he didn't really seem to care about any of that. I mean, he seemed like he was ready to just sort of cut and run, basically. He moved away to the other side of the country. There was no way a 4-year-old was traveling across the country on her own. So, while he could see his daughter, she didn't really see much of that happening in the future, which was sad, but the hardest part was trying to explain all of this to her daughter. Who knew that mommy and daddy weren't happy, but didn't really understand anything else that was going on. They had to move out, get a whole new apartment that was sadly much smaller than what they were used to living in. In the midst of all of that, her friends invited her out to go yard sailing with them once. She didn't really get out and do very much with them anymore after everything that was going on, and she thought it'd be fun to, hang out with the girls, try and reclaim some of her life again. She couldn't find a babysitter, so unfortunately she had to take her child along with her, so wasn't quite a full, girls' day, but it was still fun. Well, at one of the stops, her little girl ran up to her with a little dolly. And she said, Mommy, Susan said she really needs a friend. Can she come home with me? I could be her friend. Well, this was the first time that she had seen her daughter really excited about anything since all of this started happening. So, how could she say no? So she took the doll and put it with the few things that she had picked out that she was going to buy. She looked the dolly over. She couldn't find any price tag or anything, so when she went to go pay for the stuff, she, asked about it. Well, as soon as the person that was running the yard sale saw the doll, their whole face just kind of changed a little bit. And they said, that doll, you can have that doll for free. And she said, are you sure? I'd like to give you something, like $1, something. And they said, oh, no. You take that doll. That's fine. I don't know how that doll got out here, but we need to get rid of it anyway. You just go ahead and take it. Well, the little girl was just thrilled with her dolly. Carried her around everywhere. Insisted that she sit at the dinner table with them. Angela thought that was kind of cute. And again, you know, her daughter hadn't been very excited about anything. So, you know, she indulged that. Just a little bit. Just, you know, because it was so nice to see her daughter playing and smiling and being active again. Well, that night, she tucked her daughter in, and the little girl had the dolly in bed with her. And the little girl said, Susan wants you to say goodnight to her too. You can't forget Susan. Well, the mom just kind of laughed and said, good night, Susan. She partially shut the door like she always did. And started to walk away. She heard her daughter talking quietly, whispering. She kind of laughed at first, thinking, you know, how cute. But then she started listening to what her daughter was saying to the dolly. And it kind of unnerved her a little bit. Susan was promising the dolly that this was her forever home and she wouldn't mistreat her like her last owners did. I mean, it was an older doll, but it didn't look that mistreated. It looked like it was still in pretty decent shape, so she wasn't really sure what her daughter was talking about. And then she heard, oh no, my mommy would never light you on fire. Don't worry about that. She thought, where in her imagination did that come from? She kind of just shrugged it off and continued on down the hallway. Well, the next morning, she decided to ask her daughter about it. She said, you know, I heard you talking to your dolly after I shut the lights off last night. And she said, oh, sorry, Mommy. She was really talkative. She's just really excited to have a good home again. And her mom said, okay, well, that's fine, but you know the rules. When it's lights out, it's lights out. You need to go to bed. Don't be staying up all night playing with your dolly. I'd hate to have to take her away from you. Well, at that, the little girl turned her head to the doll, like she was listening to her. And then she turned back to her mommy and she said, Susan doesn't like that tone that you're taking with me. She doesn't want you to take me away from her. She said, bad things will happen if you try it. Please don't do it, Mommy. I don't want her to hurt you. She didn't like this game that her daughter was playing that was really creepy and just weird, and why would she even say that? Undaunted, she said, well, if I catch you talking to your dolly and staying up past your bedtime playing, you're gonna leave me no other choice. Just be a good girl and go to bed when Mommy tells you to. Then you can keep your dolly. Well, again, the little girl turned her head to the doll like she was listening to it. And she looked back at her mom and said, "Okay, Susan says we'll try and be quieter." Sorry, Mom. Well, she wasn't liking this weird thing that her daughter was doing, acting like her dolly was really talking to her and threatening her? A doll? She started to wonder if maybe all of the stress from the divorce and everything had affected her daughter more than she realized, and maybe she needed to get her a child psychiatrist or something. She wasn't sure how she was going to afford it on a single income now, but she had to do something because this was not normal behavior for her daughter. When she went to work, she mentioned it to some of her friends there to see what they thought. And they said, you know, sometimes kids just play pretend to, like, control things. It's probably just her own way of working things out. Maybe she resents you because suddenly her whole life has changed and you're there, so she thinks you were the reason behind it or something. It may not be a bad idea to have her, you know, talk to a child psychologist. They, you know, might give her some tools to kind of explain what's going on better and help her cope with what's happening. In the meantime, you know, it won't hurt to just play along a little bit. Well, she wasn't sure how she felt about playing along with this doll that seemed to hate her. So she got off work, she picked her daughter up from the babysitter, and of course she had taken her dolly to the babysitter as well. And as they were leaving, the babysitter kind of pulled her aside and said, "Do you know that she's talking to that doll like it's a real person? And I'm not gonna lie, there's something about that doll that is super creepy. I can't figure out exactly what it is, but something is just not right about that doll." Well, the mom thanked her and, you know, said, "Yeah, I've caught her talking to it too. It seems harmless. I think, you know, the divorce took a bit of a toll on her, and this is her way of finding some control in her life, and, you know, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. I'm looking into getting her a therapist to, you know, help her find a healthy way of dealing with everything, but for the time being, if she wants to talk to a doll, I'm gonna let her talk to a doll." The babysitter said, "Okay, just, you know, I would keep an eye on her, because some of the conversations they were having were a little strange, like unnervingly strange." She didn't like the sound of that, but she had kind of witnessed some strangeness that morning herself, so she kind of knew what she was referring to. And they went home. She made dinner, and her daughter insisted that Susan had to sit at the dining room table. She said, "This is her spot now. She has to sit here. Nobody else can sit here. This is her spot. She's part of the family now." Her mom said, "Of course she's part of the family." Well, the little girl said, "Okay, but just remember, no one else can sit here. This is her spot. Even if you have friends over, they can't sit here. She'll be mad and she'll hurt them." Her mom said, "I don't think a little dolly can hurt people. Why would she want to hurt them?" Well, her daughter just said, "I don't know, Mommy, but she told me that she's hurt people before. I don't want to see any of your friends get hurt. They're nice ladies. Just promise me you won't let them sit here." After dinner, she allowed her daughter to play for a little while before she went to bed. She went to go check on her daughter, and she was sitting on the floor playing with some of her other toys, but Susan was off in the corner. And she said, well, why aren't you playing with Susan? I thought you loved Susan. You take her everywhere. And she said, oh, Susan didn't want to play. Well, she just sort of laughed that off and said, okay. That night, she tucked her daughter into bed and said goodnight to Susan and closed the door again. But before she went to bed herself, she heard whispering coming from her daughter's room. Mad that her daughter would be up so late playing when she knew better. They just had to talk about this. She opened the door. Her daughter was fast asleep. Sitting at the foot of her daughter's bed was the dolly, Susan. Well, then she knew her daughter had to have been playing, because Susan had still been sitting in the corner of the room where her daughter had her when she was playing earlier. Mad that she was going to have to talk to her daughter again, she took the dolly and set her up on the shelf in her closet and then went to bed. That night she dreamt that she was fighting something with claws. She couldn't see what it was, but it was attacking her and attacking her. When she woke up, she looked in the mirror and noticed that she had 3 claw marks on the back of her shoulder. She didn't remember, bumping into something that cut her or anything like that, but she must have. When her daughter woke up, she had some choice words to say with her daughter. She heard her get up and go to the bathroom. She yelled at her to brush her teeth and then come down because we needed to have a talk. She said, okay, Mommy, I'll be right down with Susan. Well, her mom stopped. What did she mean with Susan? Susan's in her closet. Not too much longer, here her daughter came with Susan in tow. Well, her daughter looked at her very seriously and said, Mommy, we have to have a talk. And she said, well, yes, we do. First of all, how did you get your doll? I put her up. Well, her daughter said, I know, Mommy, that's what she's told me. You put her up high, 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 and she had to jump down. Said, she'll let you go with a warning this time, but next time you pull something like that, she's gonna hurt you. Please don't do it again, Mommy. And her mom said, Susan is threatening me. And the little girl says, yes, Mommy, and I don't think it's just a threat. She says she's hurt people before, and I don't want her to hurt you, Mommy, so please, don't do that again. Well, now her mom was exasperated. She said, okay, listen, I'm all for playing games, but this is going on a little too long. You can't break the rules and then use your doll to threaten me to get out of getting in trouble for it. I took your dolly away because you broke the rules. Well, her little girl was confused. She said, what rule did I break, Mommy? I don't understand what you're talking about. I know you were playing with your dolly last night. Okay? You'd left her sitting in the corner, and then when I went to bed, I heard whispering, and I looked in your room, and she was at the foot of your bed. You can't tell me that you weren't playing when you know you weren't supposed to. Well, her daughter said, no, Mommy, I wasn't playing. You must have heard Susan talking. Well, Angela did not like the feeling that her daughter was lying to her. So she said, okay, no. You cannot play when you're supposed to be in bed. And you cannot climb into mommy's closet to get your dolly. Daughter insisted that she hadn't. Susan must have climbed down and came into her room, and she said, I promise you, Mommy, I didn't. I can't even reach that. How would I have gotten her down? Just for that, she grabbed Susan up and carried her back up to her bedroom. The whole time, her daughter was screaming and throwing a fit, saying, "No, Mommy, she's gonna hurt you. Please, no. Don't do it." Well, the whole ride to her babysitters that day, the little girl didn't want to talk to her mom. She went to work like she normally does. But when she went to go leave work, her car wouldn't start. She had just had it serviced like a few weeks ago. There was no reason for it to not start. When she finally did get it started, she smelled something like burning. Next thing she knew, the under the hood was on fire. Not knowing what to do, she pulled over, waited for the fire department to come and help get her out of this. She had to call the babysitter and explain what was going on. And in the background, she heard her daughter screaming, "Is Mommy alive? Is she alive? Did Susan kill her?" Well, after they got all of that settled, she got a ride to the rental car place, got a rental car. The whole ride home, the little girl said, "Mommy, I'm so glad that you're still alive. Please don't ever lock Susan up again. She tried to kill you today." Well, she just sort of laughed that off. Obviously, her little girl has a very vivid imagination. Susan was sitting on the end of her bed. She almost screamed. She was so shocked to see it. No one had been home. There's no way this doll could have gotten down. Terrified, she threw the doll back into the closet. And she really couldn't explain why, but she kind of took her dresser and shoved it over a little bit so the door couldn't open. Well, that night, she again dreamed that she was being attacked by something. It felt like there was tiny little hands tightening around her throat. She woke up, and there was the doll sitting on her bed. Not wanting to freak her daughter out, because she knew her daughter was in love with this dolly, she said, "Listen, I think your friend Susan wants to find a new home. I think she has gotten tired of her time with us, and she's ready to find some other friends. She said you've been a really good friend this whole time, but it's time for her to go now." The little girl just got really sad and said, "No, Mommy, that's not what she's saying." Well, after she took her to her babysitter, she went to work, and on the way, she stopped at a dumpster and threw the dolly away, thinking this will be the end of that. Imagine her surprise when they came home and there was the dolly, sitting at the dining room table, almost looking accusatory at her. The little girl looked at her mommy with sad eyes and said, "She's gonna hurt you now. You threw her away. You took her in a dumpster and you threw her away." She said her last owners tried to do that too, and they tried to burn her. She couldn't remember which one of the yard sales they had stopped at to get rid of the dolly, but then she thought about it. Selling the dolly, or giving it away, seemed to be the only way to really be rid of it. So, tired of having dreams where she was being attacked by a little doll and waking up with marks on her neck and her throat and her shoulders, she stuffed the dolly into an old antique chest that she had and sold it to an old antique house. She was sorry that she wasn't able to get rid of the dolly herself, but it was someone else's problem now. And that is a wrap for the 2022 Ghoul Ready With Me season. I hope you guys had fun. I had fun. And that's what's really important, is just having fun and being spooky, right? All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. And of course, if you just have the need for a spooky ook, I do have all of these in a playlist for you guys. So, you know, just when you're feeling spooky, ooh, you can be spooky with me. All right. I hope you had fun, and I will see you next time. Love you. Bye. Ooh, happy Halloween.